This is the Real Estate Marketing Podcast, where we teach you how to grow your real estate business. Whether you're a wholesaler, investor, or realtor, this podcast is for you. Hey, and welcome back to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. I'm Austin Glanzair.
And I'm Adam Grimm.
And I am really excited for this episode today because I think it's going to be some really high-level content for you guys to grow your marketing business, or really if you have any business. We have Josh Eberly here to talk about Google Adwords. So Josh, can you say hi to the audience?
Hello. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks for being here. Josh, could you just tell a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background so the audience can know kind of what you're talking about?
Sure. So I am the COO of Conklin Media. We are a full-service agency based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And a little bit about my background, I started in digital out of college, working for a big publisher online, and just love to learn the digital landscape, love to learn a lot about what you can do in digital. And I really found my niche in paid media. And right now I kind of lead our team internally on the paid media side. I lead us also on development and CRO and a lot of other things, but I'm really excited to be on this show and share a little bit about AdWords with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. And just in case someone doesn't know, could you explain what does paid media mean? Like, what's the difference between not paid media and paid media?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of questions around like what is paid media in general, and there's a lot of different interpretations, but I'll just make it super clear and simple. Paid media is anything that you actually physically pay a platform or a channel, which could be Facebook or Google or LinkedIn. You actually pay to get in front of users on the internet. So you're paying money for a position or a placement to show your marketing message. This is the opposite of what we would call, organic or free or earned media, where you didn't have to actually pay any money. You just had great content, or the platform naturally ranked you in a certain position.
Okay, so basically this is encompassing like all those YouTube videos that we skip in 5 seconds before. Is that kind of what paid media is then? That would be classified in there?
Yeah, as we always say, marketers ruin everything. So you can thank us for the really annoying YouTube videos.
Okay, nice. So, and because this is specifically about real estate, I do want to jump into how can somebody, let's say today from this podcast, get started in paid media. So what would you suggest is a great way to get started in paid media for someone listening to this today?
That's a great question, Austin. And it really applies to the real estate market today because, we kind of went through this scenario when I was starting out in real estate. I didn't really know necessarily how to find deals or what to do first. And I recognized that if I went on Google, that I would type in certain keyword phrases like sell my house fast or we buy houses or cash for homes. And these websites would come up, and they weren't like obviously great looking websites. They were just kind of there. And I clicked around on them. They didn't seem too complex. And they were people that I knew in the local area. And so I was like, oh, this is really interesting. If I can get to the top of a search for certain keywords and pay for that position and get in front of, motivated sellers, this gives me a huge business advantage over everybody else. And so I started to think about, like you said, how can I start the process? And for me, it was really figuring out and getting in the psychology of a motivated seller. What are they thinking about and what are they typing into Google when they're in that situation? And I simply started to write down those phrases and record them.
Yeah, I like how you dove into the customer's mind, ultimately the motivated seller. So how did you do research on that? So how does someone figure out what keywords that people are searching on Google?
So I kind of used an old marketing hack to start on this one. There's a lot of good resources out there that are of people or companies that already do this. So one of them is a great platform. Obviously, we've used it before in the past, like Carrot. A lot of investors use it. And I also use Google Search Trends, which is a free tool, along with Google Keyword Planner, which is also a free tool, to figure out, based on people's URLs, what they were already advertising for. So I used, my competitors to kind of give me an advantage right out the gate to know where to start. I would plug in their URLs and their domains into some of these tools, and it would spit back, hey, XYZ competitor is using these keywords and they're bidding on these keywords. And so I knew in the back of my mind, just in business, there has to be a reason why they're buying those keywords. It has to be making the money or generating leads for some reason. So that's kind of where I started in my journey. And I compiled a lot of those keywords together. And then I also, like you mentioned, in the user's mind, I really just got in a mindset of, if I was in a situation where I had to sell my house really, really quickly, what are the life events that I'm going through, and or, who or what would I be like typing into Google? And then I just started, like I said, writing them down and compiling keyword lists.
For the complete newbie out there who might not even know where to start necessarily with, Google Trends, do you have any ideas or any terms you could throw out there as a starting point? I mean, your town plus where do I buy houses? Or any like, could you give like two or three that they might start just putting into Google Trends to start to get some ideas?
Absolutely, yeah. I would say we buy houses plus your city, sell houses fast plus your city, buy my house cash plus city. You want to make it really localized. And that's the beauty of real estate. And then even AdWords is that, you're going to run into some bigger competitors when you go after, just say like we buy houses, for example. So you want to make it localized to your area. And I'll talk a little bit later, probably. Well, this will probably come up, but we'll talk about why localizing your Google ads is a really good strategy and will help you win against some of the bigger competitors out there.
So can you tell me a little bit about, like, do you find it being successful? I know for me personally, if I look up something on Google and I see the ads on the top, I don't normally click them. So like, do you find it being successful for your businesses by doing paid advertising?
We do. Paid advertising is, for us, it's really an intent game. And so when we talk about marketing, and if you're new to marketing, this is probably maybe a newer concept, but I usually refer to marketing as there's three stages to marketing. You have your top of funnel, your middle of funnel, and your bottom of funnel. And every user and customer is at one of those points in the funnel. And so if they're at the top of the funnel, they're not really ready yet to commit to either buying your product or maybe filling out a lead form on your website. They're just kind of searching around. So it's very similar to if, you're looking for Father's Day or Mother's Day gift on the web. You might not actually want to buy anything right now. You just want to get ideas. That's more of a top of funnel type search. Now, with AdWords, we use AdWords very effectively because AdWords allows you to do a lot of the bottom of the funnel type searches. So people are very, very, very interested in selling their house for cash when they type in certain keywords. And this is the power of AdWords versus other platforms, because we can get in front of that user right when they want to actually sell their house for cash. And it's very high conversion rates. So you have people that are looking to sell, they're looking to do it right now, and they want a service, and you're there to provide that.
Yeah, awesome. So do you find it working better on Google? Do you find it on social media? Should someone be doing Instagram ads for this? Like if I'm a real estate professional listening to this, should I do Google AdWords? Should I do Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? What do you find working the best for you?
Great question. And this is going to differ between areas and different markets. What we have found is that Google will be more expensive of a lead than, let's say, a Facebook lead, but the intent is much higher. So you got a better buyer or seller on the backside. With Facebook leads, you're going to be able to generate a lot of leads for a lot less money, but those leads need nurtured over time. So they're not as low on the kind of conversion totem pole per se. So they're not as high of intent. So they're more just like, hey, I want to know the value of my house. Maybe I want to sell my house and get top dollar for cash. But they're not really necessarily looking to sell their house right now. And then versus Google, where you know exactly what keyword phrase they click through. And so you can tell, hey, they click through on a phrase that's basically a seller phrase, like we could call them. And so those phrases are the ones that we know this person is super high intent and is ready to sell their house.
Okay. And I want to jump back a little bit. You said you would talk about localized advertising. What do you mean by localized advertising?
So localized advertising is really, in our mind, it feeds into the fundamentals of real estate. Um, and so real estate is always going to be localized, right? You have all your localized markets, and those markets act independently of other markets around them. So there is some general correlation and crossover, but in all, you might live in a city, an example like where we live in a city that's growing, it's very vibrant. There's a lot of demand for the housing, but you go maybe an hour away from us and there's cities that are declining. So when we want to localize our ads, we're really making the user feel like we are in their backyard. So we're the localized company down the street that deals specifically with houses where they live. We're not some national company that's far away that they're going to get somebody on the phone they don't know. This is, your local service company that you would get a referral to. And that's the idea with localizing the ads. It's that we get that feel of we're in their backyard, that we're a trusted source, and that we're very close to them. And that helps us win a lot with sellers when they come in.
So if we want to get into this game, about how much do we need to make it worth our while? I mean, 100 a month, 500 a month, 5,000 a month. What's a good starting point for somebody who wants to kind of dip their toe in the paid space?
Perfect question. It's a question that we get a lot. So we walk through, the basics of AdWords, and then people say, of course, how much does it cost me? And what I will tell you is you're probably going to look at two paths for this. The first path is, do it yourself, which is perfectly fine. And the second path is hiring someone else to do it or hiring an agency. And the service prices for agencies vary, but you can look at stuff from probably low end, maybe about $500, all the way up to thousands of dollars a month in management fees. And then on the ad spend level, where we've seen good success, if you're just starting out in a market and you want to get data and you want to start getting some leads in and get some flow, we'd recommend spending about $600 to $1,000 in that first month just to figure out, what are the keywords that people are really clicking through on, get a lot of your negative keywords sorted out, and get enough traffic to your website to fully understand how users are engaging with your site.
So, for someone like me who's frugal, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth because $600 a month sounds like a lot of money. So what would you say to someone like me who's like, dude, $600, that's like $10,000 to a lot of people?
Yeah, and that's another question. We get that as well a lot. And so my answer to that is always, what's the opportunity cost to you of not doing this? And to back that up, it's, in business, we know there's usually two costs. It's either a monetary cost or a time cost. And so what we see a lot is wholesalers and real estate agents who say, hey, I don't want to pay $600 or service fees and all this stuff. And they say, I'll just do it myself. And what a lot of people don't realize is they spend way more than $600 of their time doing things that they think are going to generate leads or opportunities for them. But in all reality, what most likely happens is they don't generate any leads. And so they don't have a system that's built for them that can generate leads month over month, where they're trying to save money, but in all reality, they're not actually helping their business. They're just trying to basically cut expenses.
Yeah, nice. So I guess I want to jump into how can somebody start today, right? Someone listening to this, what do they need to do to get started if they don't know anything about Google Ads?
Awesome. Yeah. So the first thing to get started, I would recommend some free trainings that everyone can do. I know right now Digital Marketer is offering a bunch of free trainings on their platform, especially with going on with COVID right now. I also know that Google offers a bunch of trainings and certifications that you can do for free. So if you're kind of a DIYer, you want to do this yourself, you want to get started, there's a lot of trainings that you can go through and just kind of jump into the platform. I would also recommend, reaching out to either me or a service provider in your area to talk a little bit more about how someone could manage this for you, and help you find and generate leads for your business.
Yeah, great. And do you have to have a website to do this?
You do not actually have to have a website. There's a way that you can generate what are called call-only leads on Google, but I highly recommend that you do have a website. A website builds authority in the user's minds, and you're going to see much better conversions with a website. If you have one, like I said, you can do the call-only ads, but I would prefer that people use a website.
Are there any really big mistakes that we should avoid? So if we're going to start this today, we're brand new at it. Can you give us just some ideas and some things to stay away from?
Do not just take a bunch of keywords, put them into AdWords, and try to run a campaign. You're going to lose a lot of money doing that. Most people, when they start AdWords, and we kind of come in and help people who already have accounts, what they do is they'll take 50, 100 keywords. They'll throw them into all one campaign. They'll just do like 2 ads, and then they'll turn it on. And what happens a lot with that is they don't get the results they want right away for a good reasons. And then they say, a month later, hey, this doesn't work. Let's turn it off. And, paid media doesn't work at all. And I see this repeated and repeated. And so if you are looking to save a lot of money, what I would recommend is doing either the trainings first, or hiring and or getting with someone who's done this before in your niche and or industry. So if you're a real estate investor, get with a company and or an individual that specifically has done PPC for real estate. If you're an agent, it's going to be a lot different because you have a lot different keyword terms. So I would recommend kind of superseding the whole learning curve by just going to people who've already been there and done it successfully in your industry. That will save you a lot of time and money.
So I guess what you're saying here is too many people jump into Google AdWords and they don't know the knowledge and they spend the money. And second, they're just too general in their keywords. So, someone could go to your website and see, but they're really not motivated to take an action. So if you're thinking through Google Ads, you probably want to, think about what the absolute end user is searching. Is that kind of what you're saying here?
Yes. And with the real estate game specifically, because I know we do a lot in that space, if you're a wholesaler, your terms are going to be a lot different than an agent or someone who's just, looking to generate like, how much is my house worth leads. And especially on the negative keyword side. So a lot of people will go pretty broad on their keywords, and they'll put in stuff like sell your house or sell my house or something in variation of that. And you're going to get a lot of what we call long tail. So very, very long search queries, like how to sell my house fast in North Carolina near the beach that my grandmother owns, something of that nature. And you're going to want to really monitor that, because those search queries, a lot of them can be added to what are called a negative keyword list. And a lot of people make this big mistake too. They don't monitor the negative keyword list religiously. They're not in there a lot. And so what happens is they get a lot of clicks through, but the search queries aren't the right people. It's people looking for related services, but they're not actually going to be looking to sell their house fast. And that's the kind of people you actually want.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so can you just maybe, as we conclude here, because I know people, you listen to these things and they're probably driving, probably close to work. What is a success story that you found?
Yeah, so actually we kind of did this trial by fire in our local market. So we started out in the real estate game a couple of years ago, but we didn't actually start doing AdWords till a while later. And we threw out, we generated like over 800, 900 keywords, individual keywords, broke them out, campaigns, threw it into AdWords, and was like, hey, let's make this work. And we have generated a lot of actual deals and contracts out of that campaign. I can tell you for certain, we've spent close to $12,000 in AdWords just figuring out, what works, what doesn't work. But one of my favorite stories of that is we had one of our first leads that came in. We were able to get the lead in, that day get the contract signed, sell the property. Actually, the next day, we actually bought it. And then we turned around and listed that property for about twice as much as we bought it for. So we were able to make a lot of money in the property very quickly just from our first Google, AdWords campaign. And so that kind of showed me, hey, this is super profitable. And then ever since then, we've just worked on optimizing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's really cool because sometimes it might get discouraging when someone's spending, $2,000, $3,000 and nothing has happened from it. But if you're in the real estate game, getting a deal from that could be $10,000, $20,000 and could pay for months and months of your ads. So that's awesome. Well, anyways, thanks, Josh, for coming on here today and going through Google Ads. Hopefully you guys were able to get something out of this. And like we said, if you have any questions, I'll have Josh's contact information in the show notes. And I'll also put in how you can start Google Ads and get some education on that for free, like Josh said in the podcast. So thanks so much. And we'll catch you guys later. See ya. Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you later.